Go. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to everyone joining us this morning for our last weekly broadcast of 2022. Absolutely amazing that we've got to the end of another year. Delighted this morning to be joined by some special guests. We've got Dal Ray, Investor Portfolio Manager of LEOcrowdfunding, and Brenda Johnson, who is the Project Coordinator for LEOcrowdfunding. So good morning, Brenda and Dal.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good to have you here. And of course, the one and only Mr. John Corey, who is the co-host of this broadcast. And John, good morning. I'll let you introduce yourself just for any new attendees today.
Thank you, David. John Corey, Property Fortress, US, UK real estate investor, sort of simple buy-to-let in the UK lingo. Long-term investor, I think it's going to be 40 years in 2023. December 2023 is when I get started. Sorry, 1983. So yeah, 40 years. And these days, collaborating with this broadcast, trying to raise the educational level of investors so that we all can do better deals and understand the risks and the rewards of the sector.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. And we started this March 2020, John, I think is when we had the idea of getting on a live broadcast and just providing a little bit of education update, market stats, etc., just for the property community during lockdown initially.
Yes, it was definitely because of lockdown. We pivoted online like many other people did. And funny enough, you end up having better reach because people don't have to travel in or out. They don't have to worry about a particular time. They can watch it later, that sort of thing. So it's worked out well.
Yeah. So this is our last broadcast of 2022. We're in a little bit of festive cheer. Got my Christmas jumper on, nice wee reindeer. See, Dal's wearing his nice holiday one. Brenda's got hers on, and John's got his. What do you describe it as? Is it a full Christmas jumper, or is it just sort of a special?
No, well, first of all, the US doesn't do Christmas jumpers. So it was a weird thing when I moved to the UK. It's like, what are you talking about? And then, so this one is I picked up in Boy, probably about 25 years ago. And it's still quite warm and comfortable, but at the same time, it does have enough color in it that it seems like it's a festive jumper.
Yeah, will it pass, guys? I'll let Brenda and Dal vote. Will it pass as a Christmas jumper?
We'll let them away with that.
Let them away with it. Okay.
Yeah, especially with the lights, I think.
Yeah,
you've
made the effort to put the lights up.
I think you're right. The lights make all the difference. Lights make the difference. So we obviously went from March 2020, John, and I think it's 130 episodes we've now done of this broadcast. We have 500 registrations over that time. And really what we've done is about a year ago is moved the content onto YouTube. And really, it's really quite amazing, John, when you think of the amount of recordings, the amount of education, the amount of guests we've actually had on at that time. And certainly a number of our recordings get well over 100 views. You know, I think the top one's about 270 views. So yeah, we've created a bit of a content library.
We have. I think it's funny that you think of 270 views as a really big number, but in the world of YouTube, we're just scraping the bottom, but that's okay. There is definitely a lot of information there, and people can see a progression over the 130. They can, when crowdfunding was, quote, new to most people, deals that maybe weren't even thought of, then the deal comes along, then, you know, maybe an update or not, and then the payout or whatever happened at the end. So you can actually see that across a few of the recordings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously what we've done here is all organic. We obviously haven't spent one penny in terms of marketing the channel. It's literally just through either our own social media, talking about it, etc. So, and it really is. And when I sometimes go on looking for a particular broadcast and you're sifting through, you know, all the other ones, and it obviously jogs your memory as to different guests we've had on, etc. It's yeah, there's a lot of content. So if I could ask the attendees who are on today, I know some people are on regularly and then others listen to the recording. But if you're on live, any questions you have, any comments you want to make, stick it into the Q&A and we can pick those up. And what would be helpful is, particularly for those who come on here regularly, leave a sentence as to why you enjoy the broadcast, what is it about the broadcast makes you come back, anything particularly you've learned from the broadcast. Just put something into the Q&A, and we can come to those at the end. That would be excellent. So again, if you haven't already subscribed, then make sure you get on, please, and subscribe to our channel. The more subscribers, the better. So speaking of guest speakers, and this isn't even all of them, didn't want to go to sort of 2 or 3 slides, so we've kind of picked out the ones that corresponding to the various topics we covered. And yeah, and a really interesting array of different speakers. So I think what we'll do is we'll get Dal and Brenda initially. Was there any speakers that you particularly enjoyed or that you learnt from? Dal, go to you first. Anyone jump out?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed working with all of them, to be completely honest with you. But one that specifically sticks out is Keith, only because when I first joined crowdfunding, he got it. He's a regular investor of ours, also in the property space as well. He buys and lets and understands the concept, which was quite easy. He's quite easy to work with. Also, I've seen him on a couple of events that we've hosted in the past, so see him regularly. It's nice. He gives some constructive feedback, things that we've managed to kind of take on board and change over the last few years. So yeah, I think Keith and a few others as well. I think the Cassidy group, Newman Rose, so Rose Cassidy and Tyler, I think certainly working with them too. So young entrepreneurial kind of mindset that they have, very experienced as well. So yeah, I think all those them two kind of point out to me more so than anyone else.
Excellent. And Brenda, anyone jump out for you?
Yeah. It's sort of hard to pick individuals, because then I'm dealing with those individuals and they may come back to me and say, didn't pick me, what did I do wrong? Yeah. So you're putting us on a bit of a sticky wicket here, but for me, Latoya, loads of enthusiasm, really switched on. She knows what she's talking about. And then on the other end of the scale, you have Adam, who had the really difficult job of talking about health and safety, and that's the detail he put into his broadcast was unreal, just the level, and it is very detailed and people ignore it at their peril, but I thought he did a good job talking us through the health and safety elements too.
Yep, okay. John, put you in the spot then.
So I'm not going to pick a name, as you would expect. I think what's interesting is the range of backgrounds, the range of sort of where people have come from, how they've all sort of come into property from different paths. And within the sector, within the real estate industry, we have everything from people, maybe mortgage brokers, to developers, to planning consultants, or health and safety. We have the sort of the man with the bum crack, boots and high vis jacket type builder, all to the sort of smartly dressed finance people. We have service accommodation, and we have the whole sort of paperwork type focus, planning uplift, things like that. There is quite a range of backgrounds in the sector. And I think we've done a reasonably good job over the LEOcrowdfunding over the year, featuring these people. I just noticed, by the way, you have a typo. You can't spell the company name on the bottom of the slide, but that's okay, folks. Everybody, you get points if you find it.
Yeah, I already did, John. You didn't run it fast.
I meant the other people. I knew you would.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and there's another one further
David,
on, but
not asking you.
I'll leave it for you to find.
Prize. You have to give prizes. You gotta deliberately make mistakes so people spot the eagle eyes. Yeah, excellent. So
that's what happened, David.
100%. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But yeah, as you say, John, a great wealth of different topics covered, and people then can, for instance, search the YouTube channel for, might be planning, it might be SASs or regulation, and then go to a broadcast that covers that specific topic. So that's the benefit. So and as Dal said, like you enjoy every guest brings something unique, every guest brings their own personality. I suppose the ones that I kind of enjoyed, if that's the right term, Rochelle and Natasha, I thought a few weeks ago, did a really good broadcast, loads of enthusiasm, bounced off each other as two sisters. I thought that was an interesting broadcast. And personally, Akin, who runs the Property Strategist podcast, I think I see a lot of my son Joshua in Akin. Just a younger generation trying to find their way in property, understanding how to invest in property. You know, when I was 24, 25, certainly wasn't investing in property, wasn't investing in anything. I think back then, I think it was just football and everything else that took your mind. Whereas the younger generation, I think, are more savvy to this stuff. So yeah, brilliant, and a big thanks to all our. Good.
Speaking about younger generation and looking at these photos, I might be the oldest one in this group.
You probably are, yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely, I think the youngest person is probably about 25 based on what I think I know of two of them. And we definitely, and we have a few people here who are quite established, 20 plus years too. So there's good solid range of experiences. Some of them are second generation where there's been a family history, at least 2 or 3 of them. And then we have an international aspect. There were some people participating who were even in the UK as their primary residence. So one of the nice things during the COVID period is we've learned how to work together on a more global scale rather than having to be in a meeting like I used to run in London, where if you weren't there on a Tuesday night at a particular time of the month, okay, you didn't make the meeting, where now you can make the meeting.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Ian Cartmel, who's on our advisory board, comes in from Switzerland normally and participates, and I know Antoine and Karen at times are in France and have joined from France. So yeah, a nice international flavour to what we're doing. So project successfully funded in 2022. So the year isn't over, but right now we have 8 projects that have funded. The equity value of that is just over 2 million. Although we do anticipate it'll be higher than that by the time we get to the end of December. So Brenda, as part of being your project coordinator, you're the lead person at working with these fundraisers, onboarding them, that wonderful process of getting the DD organized, offer documents. So any observations on these projects in terms of your role in bringing them to be?
I think it's just the variety, and that's something we have to constantly adapt to. There's your serviced accommodation, you have your out of the ground developments, you have your refurbs, your commercial to resi. There's just such a range of opportunities available, and we're always told that the best thing to do is diversify your portfolio. So even within this, you can diversify, not just diversify into stocks and shares. You can come and pick a planning uplift, you can come and pick ground up development, you can come and pick a rented property that you're eating into the rental share or the net rental yield. So it's just the variety that's come through on the platform, but it's hard work from the fundraisers too. They have to supply us with a lot of information. There's quite a lot of detailed due diligence done on each project, and it does take a bit of time. Sometimes there's little blips in the process where people maybe haven't sent what they're supposed to send, and maybe on our side too. So, but all in all, it's not a bad process.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And you're definitely at the coal face of that, sort of getting things over the line. And the ones on the screen there are all ones that have funded. So Waits House and Farm, Aldwick, Hall Barn Road, Wood Road was a private raise, Backentry. Yes, John.
Look at the count for number of investors other than the project with one investor. You see quite a reasonable number of people participating in the deals, which tells me that people are putting in smaller amounts or mid-sized amounts. They're not going in with 6-figure, 7-figure sums. So that plays to what Brenda said, that people can get experience with, they can spread the risk, they can diversify across the company or the type of project. There's 30 and 40 investors in most of these deals.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that's really what I suppose the beauty of crowdfunding is. It's multiple people, doing a little bit each. The great concept of you'd rather have 100 people, doing something for an hour than one person, putting 100 hours in. So it's
it also feeds into what you were saying earlier, David, about Joshua, investing in projects. this wasn't available to you whenever you were 25. These deals just didn't come near the ordinary property investor. So it's now been opened up to the ordinary property investor to use smaller amounts to be able to get into deals and potentially benefit from them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the whole beauty of what we do. So in terms of the rest of the year, we've got two raises. Dal, I know this is your main focus at the minute as the investor portfolio manager. They've funded. I know One Church Road has done, I think, a first tranche drawdown. Beckentry, I believe, is today. But just maybe explain where they're actually at, why they're not blue and they're still sort of grey close at the minute.
Yeah, so we've had 3 projects come live more or less the same time, almost like the 3 bus scenario all at once. So November essentially was a big month for us. So we worked countlessly to try and get these across the line. I know Brenda done an amazing job to get these onboarded, and then on the back of that, obviously trying to kind of get these projects out there to investors. So currently, as it stands, Church Road is fully funded. We're literally waiting for one investor, and then we're looking to draw down and draw down on the funds this week. So hopefully by Friday, we'll be doing that. And Beckentry being an income generating project, second tranche with us, also very similar, very close to drawing down. So we're doing the first drawdown on Beckentry, and hopefully we'll be doing the final drawdown next week, which will then close and fully fund both projects as a successful projects. Stafford Garden planning uplift project, currently still live on the platform. We've decided to extend that just purely because of potential positive material changes for investors. So again, investors can log in, download the equity offer document, and also pledge, and then if there are any material changes going forward, we of course will notify any investors. So the best way of recording your interest, essentially being a pledge at this stage, is going on and putting your commitment down. And then, of course, if there are any changes, we can communicate that going forward. And then we've got Dunlichity as well, which is coming soon on the platform. I think we're hoping January, so just after Christmas, possibly. Dunlichity House will become live for investment as well.
Yeah, I'll bring John in on that one because John's obviously helping in the background with that. So again, there's a couple of sort of material changes to that, and sort of representing the information sort of more up to date with what's happening with the project. But again, an interesting project, John. I know you're kind of involved as a consultant with that one.
Well, a couple of things. First is back to Del's point about a positive material change. I wouldn't necessarily say positive. I would say a material change is a material change, which means it's important to you as an investor, whoever you are, to look at what's changed and make a decision. Does it help your situation, whatever that is, or does it work against your situation? But a material change is the Leo platform flagging up. Something's changed that's actually important enough for you to really look at. And Dunlichity House has had that, it did launch, and now it's back to coming soon because there's been a change, particularly on some of the finance. And then the key here is it's open, it's transparent. The information is brought to you in a structured way so that you as an investor can look at it. You can make a decision. There are material changes that actually are positive, but it's really more contextual to what's positive for you. And I think you'll be happy with some of these changes, but that's my opinion. Whether you're happy is up to you. And Dunlichity is a very good example of a buy and hold for rental income, but it's a buy and hold for SA income. So if someone was thinking of investing in serviced accommodation, maybe they wanted to tip their toe in the water, maybe they already have some, they want to expand, but they don't want to do all the management, this is a project you can look at. Doesn't mean it's right for you, but it doesn't mean that you should avoid it either when there's a material change. Material changes are important enough to be called to your attention so you can make a fresh decision.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for that clarity. And again, it's good the variety of projects, and the two ones on the right are private raises, so they will not appear on the homepage if you were to log in. And I know sometimes people think if they don't see a new deal on the platform, oh, well, not much happening with LEOcrowdfunding at the minute. We're almost always doing private deals, which are not seen by the general public. But I know, like Brenda, again, there's a lot of work on these. So both of these are literally with the final stages with sharing for sign off. And yeah, we'll be probably open before Christmas is the plan. Go ahead, Tom.
So why do people do private raises?
Yeah, good question. Do I ping Brenda on that one? Just
Okay.
seeing the
Usually it's to do with them having their own band of investors, their own database of investors, and there's obviously then a compliant risk if you reach out to those investors and ask them to invest into a deal, because then you end up with the collective investment scheme, which is obviously illegal. So you have to be very careful if you're a developer and you have investors, how you go about bringing those investors into your development. And then LEOcrowdfunding offers that solution because they allow developers to bring their deal to the platform and then also filter their investors through the platform. But the reason we say it's private is those are their investors, so they're ring fenced basically for that deal. I think that maybe, hopefully with my foggy head, and maybe I explained it, I don't know.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's exactly nailed. It's a really good option for for developers who want to go down that route, and we effectively become a compliance solution for those people. So yes, that's where we are, and we anticipate ending up somewhere around about 2.5 million then for the year, depending on how fast some of these fund. So that's the stats for that. So this is also paid out on. And again, it's been a really good year in terms of payout. It's really rewarding when investors actually receive their initial capital that they used to buy shares at the start, and then they receive their capital back, and then they receive the return on investment, particularly if it was at the projected amount or even higher, as it has been in a couple of cases. So these are the ones that have paid out this year in 2022. Plough Hill View, Hitesh Creation Tech up in the Neaton, it was a 30% ROI paid. Avon Valley, Ed Morgan down in Bitton, again a 30% ROI paid back to 29 investors. There's 43 in Hitesh's. There was a planning uplift again by Ed Morgan. This paid a 50% ROI in a 10-month period. And then we've also had Becontree, which is an income project. So it's already had 2 quarterly payments returned to the 39 investors, and it was actually higher than the projected 12% per annum. So it should have been 3%, and ended up being sort of 3.6, 3.7% of the return. So yeah, absolutely brilliant when we see the end result, investors getting their funds back. Any brief comment on this, John, before we go on to the next slide?
I'll do this sort of compliance warning. So on the Becontree, if they pay higher in 2 quarters, it doesn't mean they will pay higher in the next 2. They could actually pay lower than 3% and average it out, smooth it out for the year at 12. But the point here is, folks, these are interesting opportunities for you to pay attention to learn from, to understand how it works, what's the mechanics, how's the math work. If these things are like scary to you, honestly, think about putting 100 pounds in when a deal comes up and then follow along. 100 pounds is less than most courses. So if you did it as an educational opportunity and you completely lost your 100 pounds, absolutely wiped it out, but you learned something that might be the same as a course. If you put in 100 pounds and you break even, well, that's better than most courses. And if you put in 100 pounds and make a bit of profit, you're probably further ahead than most courses. So it's a way to take a small amount of money across multiple projects, learn about these operators, these projects, how they go about, how they report, how the Leo platform sends you updates, how the information's collated. You can see your portfolio. There's a lot of things you can learn for basically smaller amounts, which may or may not come back to you.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, in the compliance world, some of the big key words or principles are fair, not misleading, transparent. So we've talked about the great successes that we've paid back in 2022. The other side of that coin is there are a number of projects that are currently past the projected payout date. So they're all on the screen of the projects that we had hoped and the developers had hoped would be paying back or paying out, should I say, in 2022. And these are currently delayed. Some of them are very, very close, but as of today, they've not actually paid out. So just again, I think it's important, John. I mean, this is the reality of property. We don't have time, obviously, to go into every single one of these, but there's a planning opportunity. There's ordinary refurb. There is ground up development. And yeah, a variety of reasons, be it utilities, be it planning authorities not playing ball, cost overruns and materials, the senior debt, costing more over time because the project's delayed. So multiple factors, but certainly all of these projects are behind time. But frustrating as it is, that's just the reality of property.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of these are more binary yes or no when it comes to planning. Some of these are literally, it takes a while to get materials because of supply chains. So you can point to things after the fact, hindsight 2020. There's a couple of these that are probably be just fine in the end. It might show up next year as paid out and good return or whatever, but it won't be to the schedule. It'll be, in fact, I know one of the ones that we just highlighted prior paid out, but paid out late. So it had a very good return, and yet it wasn't exactly on time, 12 months versus I think closer to 18. So the property business is variable. The COVID inflation times do cause some turbulence in addition to the normal turbulence, and people have to be aware that they have to take that into account. This is not a interest-bearing account that every month you earn interest. These things are volatile, and that's what you get when you're an equity investor. And again, look at the numbers. You'll see there's quite a diversity of investors, number of investors per deal. I'm not sure on all of these. I didn't invest all these, but I did invest some. But most of these have quite a spread where people, small amounts, medium amounts, larger amounts, whatever's appropriate for them.
Yeah, and this is where the initial risk warnings are so important, and why they're on the documents and why they're on the slides. That don't invest unless you're prepared to lose all your money. It's a high risk investment. You can't come back after the fact and go, but I thought that money would definitely back and I needed that money for something important. It's like, no, this is an equity investment, and you're investing with the understanding that you can't just get your money back whenever you want it. This is an investment opportunity. And yeah, it comes with risk, and therefore if people understand that, then they can deal with the disappointment and the frustration better. And for those that get hot under the collar and aren't happy, it's like, well, perhaps this wasn't an investment for you in the first place, because you always didn't understand the nature of what you're investing in. And that's just the harsh reality. And I know, Brenda, we're about to send out the next round of investor updates. And I know you're completely snowed under. When we did 5 or 6 projects at once, it was quite easy. When we've 16, 17 projects on the go, and chasing 16 different developers for their updates can be a full-time job in itself almost. But we are going to do updates, as I understand it, sort of for December. And then that will take us through to February. So there won't be a January update because not much will have changed. Is that what we're planning?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to cover November, December. So we're going to take them right up to date, and then we'll send out one in early February, which will cover January. But it's just go back to early February.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. So Dal, quick one on this here, data in terms of the actual platform. So in 2022, we've had over 400 new registrations to the platform, and I know this is really a big part of your job is contacting these people as they come in and sort of touch base with them. So how have you enjoyed that side of the job?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. 2022, great year for us. Yeah, as you mentioned, 417 new registrations have come through. At some point, I would liaise with those registrations, whether it be kind of onboarding them or explaining how Leo crowdfunding works, or information about any of the projects that we've got going on. So it's been a great time for me. Really been active, essentially as Leo. I know that we've seen these registrations come from various channels, such as kind of our social the webinars, the broadcast, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and various events that we've hosted and sponsored as well. So we've been very active this year, and it's good to see these numbers coming up from the previous years, and certainly got more to do for next year. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Brilliant, thank you. So just moving towards an end here, we've got to put John on the spot for his crystal ball predictions for 2023, which I know he always looks forward to. But a couple of quick CEO on the road slides. Obviously during the year, been all over the place. Obviously enjoyed getting out and actually seeing projects. This was with Ed Morgan just last week on his Bridge Road project, which is now complete, almost ready for payout. But it was great to be there, 7 months ago on a building site, and then walking through the completed units. Fantastic job there. On a site visit with some of our investors down to Duke Street. Some podcasts have been on. And always enjoy sushi lunch with PLMD when I'm in Stratford. That always goes down well. And so it's great to get out as CEO, and then obviously events. We've obviously been attending a lot of events. Dal and I have been really all over the UK attending different events. I think the bottom right, Dal, was at the Property Investors Show, was it?
Property Network event in Excel. Yeah, that's right. We've been there a few
Property
times.
Investors Show, and the Platinum Partners, Barry Ray from Canary Connections, we sponsored that for 2022. So it's always great to be at Barry's events, well attended, and Brendan Quidd's event in London, etc. So yeah, events are important to get out there and get seen. So John, one of our other big things over the year was obviously our boot camps, and we did one in July, which again proved a very successful and rewarding 3-day boot camp.
Yes, this is definitely appropriate for people who are serious about trying to raise money. Classically, I would think of it this way: if you're going to raise £1 million in 2023, then you have a 3-day immersive program to understand the mechanics so that you can have a successful series of raises. I don't mean £1 million in one raise, I mean £1 million across a few raises, and the whole process by which you get your deal packaged up. You get it out in front of the investors, you then draw down the money, provide updates, and then eventually get to the conclusion and closing statements plus financial returns back to the investors. And in that 3 days, we cover all of that and how to stay compliant, what that means, why that's actually beneficial to growing your brand, that it's a way to use your FCA authorized person's sign off to expand your brand so more people know what you do. So more people bring you deals, more people want to invest in deals, more people want to maybe collaborate, and they will help you because they have a deal they can't do on their own, so they come to you. So it's a foundational course in how to get to that next level.
Brilliant, absolutely. And obviously there's a few more in the pipeline then for 2023. So again, if you can leave a comment for us in the Q&A, thank you for those that have done now. It'd be great to get a number of comments that we can then sort of use as information about the broadcast. So you can just take a second now, write something in the Q&A regarding the broadcast, what you enjoy about them, what you like about them, what you learned, and anything like that would be a big benefit to us. So John, almost about to wrap up this, our last one of the year. Any key lessons from 2022, and what's your focus and your crystal ball gazing for 2023?
Well, the 2022 comment is pretty much everything stays the same, which means things change, but housing, real estate investing, commercial real estate investing is all about people. It's all about demographics, particularly in the residential side. If you want to know what we need for housing for the next 20 years, look at who was born 20 years ago. Look at the local economy, look at some of the other details. So it's all in the data already. But I think this is also a funny topic, and somewhat, David, I pulled up a quote that I've read in a book recently. I was actually doing some research for a project you have on the go. And it's a quote from Jeff Bezos. It's in the book Make Noise. And he says, he's commonly asked what he sees happening over the next 10 years. So very similar to this, only a 10-year horizon. And he said, funny enough, I rarely get asked what's going to stay the same over the next 10 years. And he finds it to be a much more successful business strategy to focus on what's going to stay the same for the next 10 years. Because in effect, you can't lose if that's going to be the same for the next 10 years. And in particular for real estate, I would say people need places to live. People get married, they get divorced, they have children, the children move out, the children move in, they go to university. There are other life events, as I call them, that cause them to buy and sell. Good markets, bad markets, it doesn't matter whether house prices are going up or down. People are going to get married, divorced, move, school needs, whatever. And if you focus on the core fundamentals and the demographics when you're in the residential sector, you'll do very well. And the sort of 3-word version of that is location, location, location.
Very good, very good. Thank you. I think it's a really good summary of 22 and looking forward to 2023. Never heard that one from Jeff Bezos, actually focused on what's not going to change. Yeah, I like that. That's a good takeaway. Thank you for that. So I know this has been talked about and progress has been made, but I'm definitely looking to start a property funding podcast. The intention is to have the first couple episodes out in Q1. We did do some testing and some dry runs last week in London, which was great. And John will, of course, jump on this from time to time as a regular contributor. But I'm really looking forward to this, to be able to have more time to deep dive with some of the guests around the whole property funding element. So not so much about the investor side. There's obviously a lot of compliance involved in talking about it in investing, but definitely focusing on for developers and those looking to access funding, and obviously understanding how crowdfunding can play I think a very important part as an alternative investment source, which I think is key. So yeah, really looking forward to getting my teeth into this and for next year. And that leaves us to one of our big announcements, and we've got a number of things where we're gonna make big announcements on, but we might be better sort of leaving those to put it in print and get it out to the audience that way. But certainly one thing is the weekly broadcast will no longer be weekly after in January. We're going to move to a monthly live broadcast, and we're talking about, probably towards the end of the month. We'll do probably more near lunchtime to suit John's time zones, rather than out of bed at 4 and 5 a.m. on a Thursday, which he's been very dedicated and religious doing, which I thank you for, John. But whether we'll do a lunchtime or mid-afternoon or something, but we'll take a 45-minute slot and we'll use that as an update on Leo crowdfunding. Yes, still some guest market updates, and maybe just a wee bit more time to sort of deep dive into some information. But that is the plan. So just so you're aware, it is monthly. A lot of exciting things happening, a lot of plans for next year with Leo crowdfunding. In terms of how we're improving our services and automation and the deals we're doing, as well as just being able to expand the business in different ways. So certainly very, very excited by the future. So any comments from you, John, before I let Dal and Brenda finish off?
No, I think that largely covers it. The focus is definitely on people raising money. That's not to ignore those that have money to invest. But one of the best ways to help those that have money to invest is to get quality and fundraisers and projects in front of you, and do it in a somewhat anonymous fashion so that you can observe them, you can listen to what they have to say, you can get to know them without having to be identified. And then if you like what you hear, you can go through the platform and invest. And if you don't like what you hear, you don't have to actually be embarrassed. You just don't put any money in, and no one needs to know. So it's a great way to sort of showcase the state of the market, what people are doing to raise money, and letting people just see what's going on.
Yeah, brilliant. So before I go to Brenda to do any comments that people have made, Dal, any for last minute takeaways from the broadcast this year?
Yeah, no, really took me out my comfort zone. In all fairness, when I first joined Leo, was a little bit nervous, but I believe I've come a long way, and it's been great. It really has. So yeah, thank you for everyone, and I know that John's certainly supported me, and I've had some great guests on there, and really promoting Leo and what we stand for. So yeah, really enjoyed myself.
Brilliant. Thank you. And is there any questions, Brenda, or any comments people have made?
Yeah, just some comments. Yeah, some people have said they love how the broadcast covers different aspects of UK property investing, and someone else has said, the sensible guests and hosts sharing a balanced and interesting views. someone else, like I said, they're gradually increasing their knowledge on funding, debt versus equity. And we have another one saying, always a pleasure to listen, participate. Thank you, team. So
excellent. That's probably a good place to finish the year. Thank you, team. And again, a massive thank you to the attendees, those who come on live and those who obviously watch the recording. Obviously, it's about providing value to you, the attendee. So I think that just leaves us to wish everyone, all our investors, all our fundraisers, a very, very happy Christmas and a prosperous and a peaceful and a very healthy. Say healthy for poor Brenda suffering at the minute health wise, but we wish everyone to have a very healthy new year. So anything else from you, John, before we press the button?
Good. Thanks everybody for your support. And there are the people in the background that give me technical tips about microphones and headphones and all that. So keep sending them in. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so with that, we will say goodbye to everyone. Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you again in January 2023. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye.